channel specifically to making a steampunk illustration part 2. If you haven't seen part 1, what are you doing? You can't sit with us. Go watch part 1 first. For those who have seen part 1, welcome back. Today we're gonna go over how I'm going to color and ultimately finish this epic illustration. Right now it's this, and at the end of this video you'll be able to see it finally in its full glory. Heck, I'll be able to finally see it. I'm really dying to see it already. So with that said, let's get started.
I don't have a fancy scanner. All I need to do is transfer it into the two-dimensional world that is my computer. Once I saved it to my desktop, I connect the digital tablet, which is a 13-inch Wacom Cintiq model, and I import the drawing into Clip Studio Paint, which is not that different from Photoshop.
Alright, so I'm going to adjust the canvas size of the piece because I want to make sure that it's 11 by 8.5, which is standard size for artworks. It'll also be really helpful for making prints. So here we have the raw scanned image of the drawing. As you can see, some of the borders aren't correct. That was scanned outside of the drawing. So what I'm going to do is crop the piece properly. So if I hit edit, change canvas size, I'm going to change the canvas size to inches so that I can tell that it should be 11 by 8.5. This is the projection of what 11 by 8.5 should be. So I'm going to toggle the ends and try to frame it just right to what the original drawing was at. And then from there, we are good to basically start.
Well, not quite. So I completely forgot that the balcony needs to be finalized. So let's get the balcony situation straightened out first. Once positioned, I set the drawing as a reference layer, which is a setting in Clip Studio Paint that basically turns the layer blue, and moved on to creating a better rough drawing of the entire balcony. And as you can see, I used the circle tool to make much better ovals than my peasant hands can draw. This was definitely the hardest part of the entire process. My perspective skills are so weak that it took me a billion tries and adjustments to finally settle on an angle that didn't look too warped. And to be perfectly honest with you, it's not that accurate, but I did my best. Once I managed to draw a somewhat acceptable balcony, I created a new layer below and painted white over the areas it overlaps with the background. I could erase the background, but I would prefer to preserve as much of the drawing as possible just in case I need to pull out these designs for some other project. Honestly, the idea of erasing anything gives me anxiety, so let's just put a white layer between the background and the balcony and call it a day. With some line corrections, I then put down a rough idea of the coloring of the piece and then play with the color adjustment settings to try to get a balanced palette. With the sketch done, now we can start coloring the actual piece. I use Clip Studio's basic brush to color since the style is flat, so I don't need a fancy painterly brush. To get the colors right, I just use the eyedropper over the color sketch. In the process, I also place a few textures on multiply over the entire piece early. This is so that I get a feel of the true colors going through the textures from the very beginning. To see all of the textures, the patterns, and reference images that I used in this piece, you can purchase the illustrations packet in the link in the description.
so I'm gonna interrupt for a second as we're doing this because I just realized something really important. So remember in part 1 I showed you the thumbnail of this illustration? Let's refer back to that. Do you see anything different? So the biggest gaping difference is this balcony pole. I didn't draw it by hand because I figured I would just do it digitally because I have peasant hands when it comes to straight lines and circles. We're already in the coloring process and I've completely forgotten about that. So how about we add it in? What's funny too is that this whole time that I've been coloring it, I have felt like it's a little off. Other than the perspective, which I know is off, but my artist brain is not yet fully developed to get good on perspective, I did feel like it was a little off, and now I know why. So once I add that pole, it will improve the piece a lot. That was so silly. How could I forget that? So back to your scheduled program.
Adding the pole won't be difficult, although at this late in the process it will take some extra time because we'll have to update the color layers along with the line art. Oh boy. Now that that's out of the way, I add some final touches like adjusting the foreground shadow and adding white specks of drama, and we're pretty much done.
I'm not usually that thorough about developing the details in a piece. Investing in making big illustrations was one of my 2020 plans. Doing the research, drawing out the concepts for the airships and the characters. It has been a very satisfying process and it's nice to see it all finally have a conclusion. But I also vlogged it. So this was my first actual true art vlog, and if you've made it this far, I really appreciate that you've gone into this journey with me on this illustration. I will be making more, so you're welcome to subscribe. If you have any questions about this whole process, you're welcome to make a comment down below. The most painful part was the perspective, so I think I'll be devoting a month of practicing perspective. For now, I'm liking this right here. This has been a lot of fun. A lot of fun, you guys. And hopefully I'll see you soon again. So, bye!